everyone. It's yours truly, Tammy B. And I just want to say welcome and thank you, amazing people, for joining another session of Real Talk with Tammy B and Company, the show where we are recording live so that you can participate via the chat feature. Also, if you are not watching via YouTube and you want to be part of the conversation, I invite you to switch over to YouTube so that we can share what questions or comments that you may have. And so, as always, I just like to say to you, amazing people, thank you so much for joining us. And if you are not part of our community, I invite you to subscribe as we are here weekly, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time with new content. And let me tell you, I am excited about the presentation tonight. My beloved co-host Shelly and Cola said she has some technical difficulties or some things today. So if she joins us, it would be via audio only. And Shelly said he will be joining us. So he's going to pop in. But you guys know one thing about me. I keep the train moving. So that's what we are going to do. You already know Miss Sylvia. And listen, it is Wisdom Wednesday. And I am excited about our guests and the topic. So we have the Queen of Wisdom Wednesday herself, Miss Sylvia Standback, who needs no introduction. Hey, Miss Sylvia.
Hello, everybody.
And how are you doing, Miss Sylvia?
I'm doing blacktastically.
Love that. And listen, she has brought a special guest with her this evening. Miss P is touring the motherland of Africa. So she is not with us tonight. But we know she's here in spirit. And we have a special guest, Mr. Van Dorn Hennett. Hi, Mr. Van Dorn.
Great to be here, Tammy. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. When she told me you were coming, she had told me about you a while back. So I already, kind of knew a little bit about you, sir. And then when she told me, she's like, look, Penelope is going to be out of the country. So is it okay if I bring Mr. Van? Well, she didn't even say it's okay. She said, I'm going to bring Mr. Van Dorn on because that brother is deep. That's what she told me, sir. So I am ready to hear what you got for the people. But listen, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
All right. Well, I'm 72 years in this vessel, and that is this physical body, and happy to be here. I was born with a tremendous amount of memory in place, and so that informs my every choice, my every decision. And it's important for me to convey this to people because a lot of people are living without any access to memory. And that is good in some cases and problematic in some cases. This thing about the veil being pulled. Um, I was not born with a veil, so I had memory, full memory uh, from birth. So I have a tremendous amount of history that goes beyond this 72 years of uh, living in this flesh, this vessel called this physical body of mine. So I would like to start the conversation with that simply because I have a tremendous amount of respect for people who doubt the notion that soul is eternal and that soul incarnates again and again and again until it graduates from the wheel of a Wagawan. That's called the wheel of birth and death. There is a graduation for souls. It's a matter of having arrived at that particular intersection in experience where one says, okay, I've done this over and over and over again. I've made contributions. I've learned what I need to learn as soul. So it's now time for me to go elsewhere and do other things. But so much for that tangent, if I may. I'm known as a visual artist. I'm also known as a poet. So my visual art, in my estimation, has the potential of having an impact upon consciousness. Um, Sister Sylvia has an up close and personal experience with that, where one year I was visiting her and her husband's home, and a young man was there, and he was looking at my artwork and handling my artwork, and he left. And my understanding is he left and his hands had been transformed to heal. But I would like Sister Sylvia to speak on that in a moment, or maybe you could even chime in now if you want to. Do you say that that's your experience? So,
Yeah, I hadn't seen this young man in a long time, and all of a sudden, when Van was at the house with all of his artwork, he knocked on the door. And I said, "Oh, Mama, I hadn't seen you in such a long time." He came in, he sat down, he viewed the art, and while he was sitting there, he said, "I have to tell you all something." He said, "I injured my fingers. I think he broke a finger years and years ago." And he said, "I always have chronic pain." He said, "But since I've been sitting here, all the pain has gone." And
Mm.
that's part of the result, as I see it, of the sacred geometry. And that's what was in the room.
yes. So one of the
Van
things,
was showing,
yes,
yeah.
and there's another incident. There is a, excuse me, there's a naturopath that lives in Durham who saw another image on my on her computer screen one year, some years ago, and told me that she had a full healing in her left shoulder, spontaneous full healing in her left shoulder. Those are the only two incidents that I know of that cause physical change and transformation, but psychological and emotional and spiritual change and transformation, I'm very familiar with. Um, One of the things that I like to say, and I'd like to say this now, is that I was overjoyed to see Terrence Howard come online and show many people this image called the flower of life. The flower of life, and unfortunately, we're not doing any screen sharing because if we did, I'd pull up some images and show you. But the flower of life is actually it's like it's kind of like a blueprint of creation. It has to do with a number of things. It has to do with cell division, and it has to do with the relationship between one soul and another. If you look at the flower of life pattern, you see all of the unit circles. We call them unit circles in sacred geometry. All of those unit circles are actually the same size, which is to say that this is a statement about equality. Okay, so every circle is the same size except for the two outside enclosing circles. And I'd like to make a comment about that now. It turns out that that diagram called the flower of life is simply a way of suggesting inside of a large circle this notion that there are multiple souls and we are actually all created equally, even though there are comments and ideologies and um, concepts uh, that suggest that uh, some some human bodies don't have souls, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't engage in those conversations. I let other people do that. That's none of my business. Um, I know as a sovereign soul who to engage with and who not to engage with. So I don't have to worry about what physical body is perhaps missing soul essence or whatever. That really isn't any of my business. My life is orchestrated from a strata of consciousness that doesn't require me to be mentally engaged in worrying about what's right action and wrong action and which way to turn and which way to not to turn. Uh, this quality of consciousness that some people call higher self is my navigator. And I surrender my will essence or my pedestrian awareness to that 24/7. And therefore, I don't have to worry about which way to turn and what is right action. Those are not concerns of mine. Um, so, anyway, being a visual artist, and that's sort of like camouflage. I'm a visual artist, but really I'm a shaman uh, operating as a visual artist. The visual art thing is a cover, even the poetry thing is a cover. And Sister Sylvia, do you have my book called Love Opera House of the Soul? I can't remember
I
who
don't
asked me
have
that.
it here, but I have it.
Oh, you have it. Okay, right. So anyway, so Sister Tammy, if you were to see my book, you would every page that has poetry on it, the accompanying page has a visual. Okay, so you have poetry on one side and a visual on the other side. So you actually have 52 or 53 images in the book, and 52 or 53 poems or poetic musings. And that's volume one. Volume two might get published this year. I'm not so sure. I have so
And
many
what's the
irons in the
name
fire.
of it again?
It's titled Love, Opera House of the Soul.
Opera House of a Soul.
Yes,
Love Opera House of a Soul. Okay.
yes, right, right.
Okay.
And it really is a good read. If I say what I mean by that, a good read is that it's a feel good experience. Yeah. Um, if you find somebody that's not looking for an increase in the love uh, quotient, you might want to run from them.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Well, I don't know if I've answered your question. I mean, that's just a very simplistic uh, commentary on who I imagine myself to be. Um, so
So let okay now, sir. You said some things, a lot of things, but first of all, I will have to say this, Miss Sylvia. You're going to have to bring Mr. Van Dorn back. I'm going to tell you why. Because you just sat here and talked about Terrence Howard with this flower of life, and you cannot throw that at us and not come and fully explain. But because we want to stay on the topic that we're here for, because I know a lot of people are tuning in to hear
yes,
about this sex and spirituality conversation.
yes.
But we want to hear. I know we want to hear more about that. I do want to. You got the right person when you just said about the incarnate of the souls, when you were saying that you've been here through multiple lives and things like that. Miss Sylvia, do you have the YouTube playing by chance?
No, but
For some reason I'm hearing myself echo back,
Yes.
and it looked like it's coming from you. That's why I just double checked to make sure it wasn't me.
but it's something came up. It said your recording has stopped. Refresh. So should I hit that refresh?
um you can try it,
I
and
don't
if
know.
you get disconnected you can just come back. But so you were talking about the incarnate of souls and the eternalness of souls, and I personally like that. I personally believe in that. So I am just curious, how is it that you think, how is it that you feel you were able to remember your past soul's experience? I'm sorry, I gotta ask this question.
Well, first we must. Okay. Well, the echo. No, the echo
I
is happening here too. Yes. So Sylvia, it must be something with your computer that has caused a how do we say this? Oh, you're muted. Yeah. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
I muted her for right
Oh,
now.
okay. That's what it was. It was in Sylvia's machine. So anyway, you asked the question how. Um, Consciousness and breath are so intimately intertwined that it's impossible to talk about awareness and memory without talking about breath. Okay. And so, and because poets and metaphysicians and sages and shamans have to use words to attempt to convey meaning, we talk about what we understand, and we use terms that we believe are going to make it possible to communicate what we understand, communicated in words that will have some meaning, will land on someone. I continue to find myself talking over people's heads, which is not what I'm intending to do, but I'm actually speaking about things that they have no experience with or don't have any reference experiences for in terms of comprehension, understanding, or intellectual conversations and what have you. So oftentimes I'm making noise when I talk. That's why poetry and visual art are such important mediums to use because it bypasses the intellect. Poetry tends to bypass the intellect, just like music, and certainly visual art tends to bypass the intellect um, because it generally speaks directly to the soul through the eyes. And like what you see hanging from the ceiling over my head over here, that's
Mhm.
actually an 8-pointed star that I designed. But each one of those star points is called a chestahedron. And a chestahedron was something that was conceived by two different men at two different times within the last 150 years. But we don't have time to talk about that. But that
Right.
8-pointed star is made out of paper and it's waiting to be realized in another medium. And then there's another one in the far back corner, and that one is a one, two, three, a 5-pointed star, and it's another. These are actually energy devices, and
Mhm.
they're actually related to our energy fields. So I'm attempting to speak to your question about how is it that I remember.
Mhm.
It's an impossible question to answer. I can only say to you that um, everything that we experience is a dream, and uh, that's something that is believed by some and not believed by others. But
Right.
we are actually dreaming in this dimension, and when we go into the dream state, what we call when we put the physical body to sleep, and we go
Mhm.
into the dream state, we're dreaming there also. And then
Mhm.
we go beyond that, and there's like a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream. There are these many layers of dreaming, and in this dimension, we have physical bodies, and what we conveniently call the astral plane, we have physical bodies also that look essentially like the bodies that we're operating in this dimension. But it is possible to have many experiences that are experienced simultaneously, but the human mind can't process simultaneity. So that's why we experience now what happened behind us, and some people have the ability to see what's coming, what's ahead, and that's another form of seeing, another form of vision. They're called seers and what have you. Premonitions is another term that's used when we talk about seeing into the future. And when we look into the future, we're not always looking at some absolute situation. Looking into the future is like looking into a stream that could change at any moment and have a different configuration. It's the same stream, but it changes and it has a different configuration. So looking into the future is not something that we can consider an absolute uh, in terms of this is going to happen. It's only looking at what's possible.
Possible
And then in some
multiple
cases,
possibilities.
yes, yes. And in some cases, possible what's possible and what is likely, but that is determined by the actions that an individual is taking in the so-called present moment. But anyway, hopefully I did some decent job at answering your question about how is it that I have access to this memory. There are many of us who have access to memory. One of the interesting things that happens to humans when they come into this life is that what they are born with is often beat out of them. And when I say beat out of them,
Mhm.
sometimes it's just psychological and emotional uh, abuse by the people who they are with. Like, okay, so you come into this world, a newborn, and you have somebody is caring for you. So whoever's caring for you is either going to be complementary to who and what you are. This is very difficult to talk about because the greater reality is that whether you're born into what would be considered favorable circumstances or not favorable circumstances, all of those situations are understood to be to our benefit, and that's, I mean, some listeners will understand what I'm talking about. Um, One of the problems that we have as humans is we have value judgments, and we have judgments against experiences, and those value judgments and those judgments against experience oftentimes cut us off from memory. Okay, from accessing memory. That is a simple fact. It's understood in the amongst the many people who are born awake or walking awake in the dream, understand that judgments against experience is a quick way to cut oneself off from memory, whether it's memory of the past or what some people would call memory of the future. So,
Gotcha. So I guess I was kind of asking that question to see if you kind of had a clear notion, because I have heard before that when we are born, we do as kids come with the memories, but then as we get older, we lose it. Because I recall years ago hearing a story on Dateline, and this was like the late 90s before they had what they call this fake news. This little boy at 3 or 4 years old could tell you everything about an airplane. And
yes,
when and he told his mom, like, yeah, we was in the plane and the fire hit this part of the plane and it went, that's how he transitioned in that life. And
yes,
when they did the research, the story that he told was true.
that's right.
So that just kind of confirms, like, okay, when souls enter the existing body, and then as a younger, they come with the knowledge and the knowing of who they are, but as culture, society, and everybody gets a hold to them, eventually they lose the memory.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
one more question I want to ask, and then I want to dive into our topic for tonight. One more,
Yes.
you mentioned being a shaman. Now, it's interesting that you use that word, because I just recently heard that Will Smith, Abuela, and I had a conversation the other day actually about a shaman too. But I heard
And
Will
I
Smith.
didn't know excuse me, she asked me, did I know a shaman? I said no.
That is hilarious, because I surely did. I'm like, do you know a shaman? Because I've been hearing, I heard Will Smith had an experience with a shaman. But then what kind of was interesting, somebody told me like the process requires like a person to take ayahuasca or like some kind of psychedelic drugs. So that's not the case with you if when you perform whatever your cleansing or whatever ritual that you do.
There are some who might consider that I do not have the right to call myself a shaman, and I
Okay.
respect that. I respect that. I use the word because uh, for me, a shaman is a medicine person, a medicine man, a medicine woman. And
Mm-hmm.
so, since I know that I am practicing medicine,
Yeah.
um, and I'm practicing medicine as uh, under the cover or under the auspices of visual art and poetry.
Yeah.
Um, so I use that term for that reason. It isn't that I have been initiated by anyone as a shaman. Um, so, like I said, if anyone wishes to take issue with me on that, I respect that, and all I can say is this: their opinion is none of my business, right? Um, and that's
No,
true.
that's good.
Yeah,
That's good, because like you say, there's different processes, and like I said, I was just wondering because like I said again, I heard her Will's experience with the work, but then like I said, I know with him, from what I was listening to, like, or what I was told, like he did the ayahuasca, and he was talking about the process of how he for the longest thought it didn't work until he finally went to sleep, and who he was introduced into the cosmos, and I guess saw his guardian angel, and he called her mother, and just the whole thing. So I'm nosy like that, because I want to know everything, because I everything that you kind of talked about the veil. I know that there is a veil that they don't want us to see. I'm constantly knowing that they're keeping people distracted from their power that's within them and living their true purpose. And if you can keep people distracted with fear and all this other negativity, then they really miss their true calling, their true purpose for coming here. So I am big on that information that sharing. So thank you for saying that. Thank you for
yeah.
even talking about that.
Right.
But I do want to jump into our topic for tonight. Our topic for tonight. So which one of you are going to start the teaching on sex and spirituality?
I'm going to start off so that I can give the usual description of how we do it, as so everybody will know. Okay, if that's all right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Um, the information, first of all, I want to say the information that we'll be sharing tonight, most parents and young adults should have this information.
Mm.
And if they had the information, they would be able to make choices. They could do what they think they should do, or they could do what some of these things we're going to learn tonight suggest that we do. So I'm hoping that if there are any parents listening or young adults, share this information. And the way we do this, I always put up excerpts. And the excerpts that I put up are from experts in the area, not from me, but from these particular psychologists, psychiatrists. Okay, so that you know, I have to give you those receipts. Don't ask me because they're the ones that are astute in the area. So when I get started, I'll read the excerpts from their presentations or maybe from an article. And anywhere in the, while I'm giving the excerpts, please interrupt and say, I have a comment I want to make about that, or I have a question, or put it in the chat if you have a question or comment. And don't forget to like our video and subscribe, please. That helps us out too. So if you're ready, I'll get started with the excerpts.
Yes, please. Girl, we ready. Oh, and to the band in Colonial Heights. Hello. Thank you for joining, and thank you everybody that's joining us. All right, Abuela, let's go.
Now, do you have the PowerPoint, or I can just read them off? Just read the excerpts off. You don't have to have it.
Yeah, go ahead and
So
read
you
them.
want me
Yes.
to? Okay. The first group of comments that I'm going to make come from a sister from South Africa. Her name is Gogo Dineo. She's a celebrated spiritual teacher, life coach, African storyteller, actress, writer, dancer, and trained facilitator. And for short, we just call her Gogo. Gogo has a meaning, and I think it has to do with being a shaman as well. And so she did these excerpts on sex and spirituality. One of the comments is, when we engage in sex, we are giving our godliness to another person. And these are some important consideration that Gogo suggested regarding the topic. Your body is a temple which holds your spirit and your soul. And like I said, feel free to comment, stop me at any time. When we have sex, we are opening the door to our sacred temple. These are questions you should ask. Does your partner have the same values and principles as you do? Is that person empathetic and compassionate? Do you share the same ideas about how to treat human beings? Okay. I'm gonna have to think about this one. The effects of the generational trauma of our people is also transmutable. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The trauma of enslavement, and this is still go talking here. Cultural colonization. Is your sexual partner seeking a mother he or she never had, or vice versa? Sex should protect and love. Any comments?
No, but to the chat, you are welcome to drop questions or comments on anything that's being said, and I will read them out loud. Mr. Van Doren, did you have anything that you want to add to this?
What's interesting is that, I've read this material that Sister Sylvia is sharing, and I've had a number of thoughts in response to what is shared by Sister Gogo. And one of those thoughts was has to do with this question of how this phenomenon actually works. Um, you know, the human species can be thought of as an experiment. Uh, some of us, some of us believe that we were actually engineered for very specific purposes as a collective, and some of those stories come from listening to what some storytellers say about the Anunnaki and
Yeah.
their relationship to humans and what have you. So, one of the thoughts that arose in my awareness after reading what Sister Gogo had shared was the question that has to do with what do we know about this breeding program that we are part of? Okay, the breeding program, how it actually works, the hows and whys of the attractions, and there's some more material that Sister Sylvia is going to read uh, after this, the next section that is actually. I need to wait for us to continue before I make any more comments. Okay, but I do have
Okay.
some
All right,
comments.
abuela.
Okay. Now she calls me abuela. Okay. Beware of demons wearing angel mask. Things in your life get stuck when involved with demonic spirits. Okay.
So now let me ask this question. All right, especially with Mr. Van Dorn talking about the eternal validity of the souls. Now, do demons really exist spiritually, or are like what is that about? Because somebody was just even recently talking to me about the fall of Lucifer and stuff like that. And we know there are evil presence, right? We know there are low vibrational energies out there. Do demons really exist?
Well, the, here's what I personally believe about demons. Okay, demons and angels, if I may. Um, all souls are not incarnate. In other words, all souls do not have physical bodies, and so those souls that don't have physical bodies that are engaged with, say, life on this particular planet,
Mm-hmm.
in one way or another, whether they be angelic or demonic. And by saying that, I'm acknowledging the idea or the concept of angels and demons. Okay, so these souls have very specific functions and purposes and roles that they play in our lives as individuals. And so um, I like to tell this story, so there's no way for me to avoid telling this story now. Um, you have these, I can call them discarnate souls, souls that do not have physical bodies, that are identified as either being demonic or angelic, and they are playing very specific roles in our personal development. And
Mm.
so um, there's a quote in the Judeo-Christian Bible, and I'm not a student of the of Judeo-Christianity. I never was, and that's because I was born um, in a relationship with a spiritual tradition, which I will not name,
Okay.
um, but um, in the Judeo-Christian Bible, there's a phrase where it is said that Yeshua says, uh, "Satan, get thee behind me." Now, I don't know what that means to Christians, but what it means to me is basically, you Satan have no business with me. So you can just vanish now and go someplace else and
That's funny.
bother somebody else, right? That's the way I interpreted it. But I
That's
don't have to
you're
be right
right.
now, and I've never asked a student of uh, the Bible what it meant to them or what it means. So that's just my personal take on that statement. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
to be uh, correctly identified with the what's written, but that's my interpretation. Just like another interpretation of mine from the Judeo-Christian Bible, which has to do with this part of this psalm, and the most important part of the psalm, everybody knows, "Be still and know that I am God." Well, The way I interpret that is to be still means to get quiet mentally and emotionally and physically, maybe, and to know it when the word know is used in the Judeo-Christian tradition. It has been my understanding that it means to become one with. So for me, to be still and know that I am God is a way of saying, get still and merge with me, join with me, become one with me. And so that's how I walk with that phrase as being full of meaning for myself. Now, um, I'm going to have to apologize for everybody because I might be spinning off on tangents here. But the the question that we have before us is, do demons exist? And my contention is there are lots of souls that are not incarnate that do qualify as demons. And one thing I like to say is that if you're not protected by self-love, and let me rephrase this. If an individual is not protected by self-love, then they are subject to the whims and fancies of what some people call demons. Okay. Now, I hope
Okay.
that makes sense. Am I talking over anybody's head? Could you all say that I need to rephrase that, please? Do I need to rephrase it?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
That's fair. And then also too in Christianity, it's we're protected by the blood. That's what the covering is. The covering is we're protected by the blood of Jesus Christ. So,
Okay.
but I
Good. What's
do I do know that blood is part of love, and love is the foundation of it all. So you answered. So thank you for that. Thank you. All right, Miss Sylvia.
Okay. We generally consume the eyes. We generally consume with the eyes first, and and before consuming with our soul. Casual sex isn't just casual; it is a spiritual act.
Mm,
Sex is the most powerful energy in existence and a major influence in our lives. Sex is a form of creation or manifestation. Negative things can go wrong in life due to the negative energy of a sexual partner, i.e., loss of a job, a career, or relationships. And did you understand that one?
I did.
If you indulge in sex with someone that has a negative energy, you might find your different negative things kind of happening in your life. You might lose your job or your relationship.
Ooh, that's pretty deep. That's pretty deep. Can I, and while you pause, um, I in Napoleon Hill's book Think and Grow Rich, he talked about sexual energy,
No,
and he talked about, like, to the point that it's when it's prevalent, it takes away from a lot of uh I want to say this correctly because it's been a while since I listened to the book, but he was saying, like when people are young, right? They're full of sexual energy, so yeah, they almost like rabbits having sex all the time. But then as they get older and that energy starts to kind of calm down, then they can channel that energy towards more of their goals and their life plans and their success factor. Have either one of you ever heard anything along those lines?
Of course, yes. Right. It is a fact. Some one of the interesting things in terms of observing what happens in the human arena is that if you look at certain personality types, you can see that some individuals who are not preoccupied with sexual activity and sexual attraction and what have you, they spend their creative energies elsewhere and in other ways, and they tend to achieve more in terms of the material successes than individuals who find themselves uh, rather significantly engaged with sexual activity at young ages. I mean, anybody can look around, and these people are called nerds and other kinds of interesting and curious derogatory terms. But the fact is that they're channeling their creative energies in a different direction from sexual satisfaction, gratification, and what have you. And so, where thought goes, body follows. And so, if a person becomes, now I'm getting ready to say something that's rather slang, but if a person becomes a sex slave, then hello, um, look at the outcome. If you understand what I mean by it. When I say a sex slave, when someone is married to sex over and above any other type of human activity, uh, the results are telling, self-evident what happens. The person doesn't generally achieve um, th- the same thing that some of their contemporaries achieve. Now, that's not an absolute, because you can take a charismatic individual who does have a lot of sexual charm, if I may use that term, male or female, and they can achieve quite a bit. This is a deep subject, because we're looking at a misuse and an abuse of power when we look at celebrities in particular. And I'd like to speak to something that really just has to be said now, because I don't want to wish that I would remember this later. One of the things that happens in the world theater is that a lot of people who find themselves on stage as performers in any arena, and I'm talking about whether you're a lawyer or a minister or a musician, um, any other the other places where people go and find themselves in front of large audiences, they are often experienced as a charismatic force or phenomenon. What happens is many of these individuals find themselves craving the attention, which is elevating, because where thought goes, um, one's energy goes. Where thought goes, one's energy flows in that direction. And so, what happens is we're all tele-energetically connected. And so when we find ourselves looking at a preacher or looking at a politician or looking at a lawyer and idolizing them, we're feeding them our energy. And many of these individuals find themselves becoming addicted to this. And you'll find many of these individuals craving this attention after hours. And so that after hours craving of attention is oftentimes manifest as different types of addictive behaviors. Okay. And so I don't want to give any examples because there are many. I'm sure.
There's a
But
recent example.
I was gonna say we can just I'll throw it out there for you, P. Diddy. Like
okay.
just go
Yeah.
ahead. Cause I was waiting for you to finish. So I could have said it, but you alluded to it. So I'll go ahead and say it for you. Cause
Yeah.
you have the power, the money, and then you have the sexual addiction.
And
Yes.
TD Jakes.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Oh,
mean, there are so many examples. I mean, there are so many examples, and the irony and the tragedy is that a lot of unwary souls who see this phenomenon. I mean, I'm talking about youth who actually see this phenomenon. They want to become one of those stars, if I may use that term, or superstars, if I may use that term. And so they find themselves lusting after the experience because they recognize that this person is magnetizing attention and is
Hmm.
riding on this attention. And it is a high. It is there's no question about it. It is one can become inebriated on attention, and most people are not immune to the effects of becoming high on attention. Okay, and so
yes.
we have a lot of distortions that we are running as humans and as a collective, and our our last 500 years are colored with stories of these distortions, many and varied stories. And I just picked a number, 500. You could say 700. You could say 1,000. You could say 2,000. There's so many stories that speak to this addiction of addiction to power. But that addiction to power is actually an addiction to energy. And
Hmm.
so a lot of these individuals become energy vampires, And I'm going to take us someplace right now. There's a fellow whose name is the guy who did the Muppet movies. Come on, give me his name.
Henson, Jim Henson, or
Jim
something like.
Henson, right? Jim Henson's masterpiece is titled The Dark Crystal. Okay, so
Mm.
for anybody that wants to take a very interesting spiritual journey, go watch the film The Dark Crystal, because it is truly amazing. What happens is and I'm not going to spoil the story for anyone, but it talks about this very subject of energy addiction. Okay, it speaks to it directly, and the outcome or the result of becoming addicted to energy is that one becomes a vampire. So the back to the demons, we were talking about the demons. The way demons roll is that they garner energy by influencing the behavior of individuals. And the way that they influence the behavior of individuals is that they seed thoughts into the individual's mind, which makes it possible for the individual to experience something that we conveniently call fear. And for those who know anything about consciousness, know that no harm can come to anyone unless they allow it. There's no such thing as somebody walking up on you doing you harm. If you don't allow that harm in to your field, no harm can come to you. So one of the stories that I like to tell is a story about the bully on the playfield or the playground. When a bully approaches a person has three options. One option is to stand up to that bully. The other option is to receive a whipping, if I may use that term. And the other option is to run. Okay, no, I don't know of any more options than that, right?
No,
You
that's
stand up to
enough.
the bully, you receive a whipping, or you run. Right now, if you stand up to the bully, that means that you have some integrity about yourself and some self-love about yourself, and the bully knows that, and therefore they cannot do you any harm because they recognize your sovereignty, and that you are standing in integrity with yourself, and that you're standing in the state of love, which makes it impossible for them to do you any harm. And so that message wants to be understood by people far and wide, that no harm comes to us from the outside. Harm only comes to us from within. And so all of the patterns that are ingrained in our subconscious minds that have to do with I'm a victim are the root cause of the effect called somebody's hurting me or somebody is doing me wrong or doing me harm. Now, I'm talking over some people's heads, and that's okay. But I have to say this because I don't have uh, I don't have any way of pretending to not know what I know. Okay, let's
And
move
that's
forward.
and that's fair. That's fair. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. And listen. You might be talking over some head, but you got two on the platform whose head you. I mean, we right where you're at, so we
Yes, yes,
understand.
thank
But let me go ahead and let Miss Sylvia jump back in.
you. Yes,
There's an African proverb speaking to what Van just said. The African proverb says, if there is no enemy within, the enemy on the outside can do you no harm.
yeah.
Hmm.
That doesn't even exist.
And okay. So the chat commented um on your energy vampire statement and the victim mindset, which we know that to be true. And you can just even look at what's happening, the way that 47, 45, whatever his number is right now, he's
45.
the
Oh,
energy
yeah, I guess.
vampire.
Yeah,
Huh?
47. Yeah, yeah. I forgot. Yeah, he was 45. Now he's 47. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
45,
Yeah.
47. He's an energy vampire. Everything he's doing, he know he's sucking energy out of people. They're giving them his power, him their power.
Yes. And take note, everyone. If you choose to deny your sovereignty,
Mm.
you are the perfect target and you're the perfect victim. And I want to add something. It's like some of us, like I said, I've been in this body for 72 years. So I, I've seen a little bit of history in regards to civil rights and what have you. So One of the things that some of us were told was that and okay, um, are either one of you all familiar with the name Carlos Castaneda? Carlos Castaneda? Okay,
Yes.
okay, okay. Well, anyway, Carlos Castaneda wrote a lot of books, and some people consider it to be fiction, and some people can consider it to be factual. My contention is that there is some truth to Carlos Castaneda's stories. So there's a book called The Fire from Within. He wrote a lot of books. And he started off as an anthropologist. And he says that he happened upon a Native American shaman who goes by the name of Don Juan Matus. And so Don Juan Matus tells Carlos Castaneda a story of when Don Juan was 20 years of age and was seduced into servitude on a plantation um, in Mexico. And he thought that he was going to be working on this uh, plantation, but he was going to get paid. But there was a relationship between the this hired hand on the plantation and a guy who would be telling these young men in the saloon in the city, there's work for you on this plantation. So Don Juan went to work on the plantation and realized that he had been trapped into a state of slavery. So he was told by this what we'll call the slave hand that if you tell anything about what's happening, I will kill you. If you run, I will kill you. So he ran. He tried to get off of the plantation, and he was shot and left for dead. And then this this shaman named Don Elias and his wife found this young man out on the road, and they took him in and basically healed him. And so they said to him after he began to study under them the ways of shamans, uh, they said, okay, now you have to go back to the plantation. And he says, you got to be kidding. I'm not going back to the plantation. Let me translate that. Have you lost your mind? Right. But he's very excited about what they're teaching him, these spiritual teachings. So he goes back to the plantation, and uh, he gets to a point where he can't take it any longer. And so one day the owners of the plantation are out on their back porch, and the slave uh, hand is out in the yard, and uh, Don Juan runs out into the yard and tells the truth, rails to the top of his lungs. This is what's happening. This man right here, the slave hand, is actually forcing us to work, and we don't get paid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he runs into the stable. Uh, Don Juan runs into the stable and jumps into a corral with a horse. And this angry, infuriated slave hand chases him in there, basically, runs into the stable, gets kicked in the head by the horse, and dies. The, mor- the moral of the story is that if you stand up to your petty tyrant, if you stand in integrity to the petty tyrant has no power over you. Okay, so the lesson wants to be those of you who think of yourselves as being victims of anything, consider standing. First of all, consider finding your sovereignty. You see, we can talk a good game, but uh, all demons and all tyrants know who is standing in their power. They don't have to. I mean, yeah, all demons and tyrants know who is not standing in their power, and they know who they can take advantage of. And so um, there are very few souls who actually own their power to the extent that they don't see themselves as being victims of anything. Okay. And those souls are the ones who came here to liberate humankind from a gross spiritual ignorance that has been riding humankind for centuries. And I'm not in a position to suggest that I'm in alignment with any predictions that have been made about the changes that are possible, but I'll simply say that the more of us that stand in integrity with ourselves and stand in our sovereignty, the fewer vampires, as in tyrants, and what have you uh, have any power. And we don't have to be angry with these individuals, because
Mhm.
that's you're losing energy by being angry. A lot of people think that there's something called self-righteous something. I mean, Sister Sylvia, you can talk about that. Hello. Self-righteous indignation. Come on now.
Righteous anger, righteous anger,
No, no, no.
Indignation.
Right.
indignation. That would
Self-righteous
be.
indignation. Y'all can go there if you want to, okay? But it could be a trap, okay? That could be a trap. That could be something that I call delusional thinking. Um,
So, you know what, Mr. Van Dorn? It's so much I want to say to about this stuff that you're saying, but I want to get back to the topic.
yes,
But the chat
yes,
is agreeing with you. This is all so true. Our mindset allows us to protect ourselves, and this is true. And even some of the stuff that you're saying, I ministered this morning on a prayer call, and I kind of said some of the same similar things, because we so people, not we, because I'm not a part of. I'm very conscious, and
yes.
people are not realizing the angrier they get, the more pissed off they stay, focused on everything that man doing, who really is a puppet. For
Thank you,
those who are really really running the show,
thank you,
that
thank you.
puppet is doing everything to keep the attention on him, everything. And the more people focus on him, the more they're giving their, like you use the word, their sovereignty, because people don't realize God is in all, period. He's in all. But I don't want to go no further into that. That's a talk we are really gonna have again as well. Miss Sylvia, let's go back to what you were talking about.
Okay, and like you said, if possible, we're going to have our dear brother come back again, because
Oh,
this is so interesting. I'm ready to tear my notes up.
but look, the
Please,
ones who
please.
wanted to hear about sex and spirituality don't want you to do that.
Okay, all right. Now, the next person is Paula Herlock. And she's a Jamaican mental health specialist and a wellness advocate. And Paula Herlock is also on YouTube.
Mhm.
And her last name is spelled Hurlock. Paula Herlock.
Okay.
Sex with the wrong person can cause chaos in your life. The true union of sex is spiritual. Sex is the sex is to achieve spiritual enlightenment, not entertainment or sensual attachment. Sexual exchange is the um, auric energy field mixing intellect, trauma, karma, and emotions. I'm going to say that one again. Sex exchange is the auric energy fields mixing intellect, trauma, karma, and emotions.
Mm.
When we mix with someone, we take on their energetic field. We take on the karmic field of their ancestors, which includes thousands of years of ancestral energy. Negative karmic energy fields can be cleansed, but it is said to be difficult. Try and minimize the number of sexual partners you have to preserve your energy. Try keeping your energy as pure as possible and choose a partner that has a similar energetic pattern as yours. One can be pulled down energetically by another person.
So now, would that be a reason? Um, I'm probably gonna get in trouble for this. Would that be a reason why the church has always been don't fornicate, like don't have premarital sex? Like, is it because it had the insight to this knowledge, or you shaking your head? No,
I
then
don't
help
think
me.
so. Personally, I don't think so. I think the teachings of the Eurocentric Christianity is all about control. more so than anything spiritual.
Okay. Okay.
That's
So
this person.
I agree. So, okay, so you're saying this about the control, but then when you hear that, what you just read, the effects that it can have on you as an individual, and it's really suggesting that you minimize your sexual partners, which is kind of what I guess, in a sense, that control that they were trying to do was, encouraging, because it's saying, hey, if you marry your one wife, your one husband, that should be your lifelong sex partner, right?
Now you're the minister. Because the church says abstain from sex until you're married.
Right.
And to me, this is personal. To me, marriage is a European construct to make money.
Mm. Break that down. Break that down. Break that down. You
Well,
have
when you
to.
get married, you have to buy your marriage license. They know that construct is not going to last most of the time, so you're going to get the lawyer's going to make money in the divorce, and the beat goes on. And if I go back to when I lived in Africa, one of the things I remember, a young man said to me, "We don't go to the Boma to get a piece of paper to get a wife." When he said Boma, he meant government. He said, anytime you have an intimate relationship and you have a child with the female, that's automatically your family.
Mm, okay, but see, in this United States of
United
America.
States of America.
But if I mean, the marriage is to protect, people in the event if they didn't properly do their paperwork, like, so the house, the whatever, when the person transitions, to make sure that. Go ahead, Mr. Van Dorn, help me out.
What we are talking about are social architectures, okay? Social architectures that are actually constructed for the purpose of managing resources, okay? So Sister Sylvia says something, but I'm translating that into managing resources, and so uh, everything is a resource. Our thoughts are a resource. Our feelings are a resource. Our actions are a resource. And anything that comes to us in our lifetime can be thought of as a resource. But if you think about your thoughts being a resource and your energy being a resource, we talked about demons earlier. Demons feed on the resource of energy by way of fear that is generated from within. Um, so all of each one of us is a universe within ourselves, and
Mm,
we have all that we need. Most
Mm.
of us are unaware of that, and so most of us are operating with constructs, as in concepts that are uh, that reduce us to pawns on a chessboard. Okay, yeah. So in order to live a life of liberation, one has to liberate oneself from mental slavery. That might sound cliche,
mhm.
um, but that mental slavery is part of a pattern that has been instituted uh, for the purpose of managing the resource of mental energy, spiritual energy, and physical energy. Okay. And so you can't have one without the other one. All
Right.
of those things go together. Every human being has mental energy, emotional energy, physical energy, and whatever else that comes with that. So we all are batteries, if I may say, going back to the matrix as a reference here. And by the way, I hope everybody that's listening has tuned into the at least the notion that uh, Sister Sophia Stewart authored a book called The Third Eye that was actually written as a uh, superhero's book for African American youth. And that book supposedly was used as the script for the first Matrix movie. Now, this is what, yes.
Say that again, please. What's the name?
Oh,
What was her name again?
her name is Sophia Stewart.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
And so Sophia Stewart and I actually talked in 2005.
Yes.
Uh, we had a brief telephone conversation. It was supposed to be about my artwork, but anyway,
What's
Sophia
the book?
Stewart.
What's the name of the book, though? Give me the
Oh,
book.
the title of the book is The Third Eye.
Now, didn't she do the movie The Matrix?
No,
Yeah,
no.
that's what he said. It came,
Here's
the
what I'm
third
saying.
eye, the
The
Matrix came off of the third eye. Go ahead.
the the Wintowski siblings at that time they were men. They since then they both undergone a sex change, so they're no longer listed as men, but they're listed as women now. But when they hijacked the story titled "The Third Eye" by Sophia Stewart, they actually used that as their script for the film. Now that's said to be fact. I have no way to prove that, and I have no way to disprove it. But those who want to know more about Sylvia Stewart, all you have to go do is go into cyberspace and look for the mother of the Matrix. That's
Mm.
the code word, the mother of the Matrix. And so, um, so Sophia Stewart also claims that she wrote the book that the Terminator was based on.
I
Okay.
saw her interview.
Yeah, right, of course. So anyway, that's history. I mean, we're talking about 15, 20 or more years ago. Now, what's interesting about this as an aside, I emailed myself this video that was supposed to be Keanu Reeves talking about the truth that he hadn't told for 20 some years. And I would like to go back to that because I'm suspicious that it could be a simple truth that he wants to share with the general public, but I don't know. Like I said, I didn't bother to look at it, but I have it, you know, in my.
Just make sure it's not a virus or anything. Make sure,
Well, it's a YouTube video. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
send that, email that to me because I would love to take a look at that. I would love
I'll
to
make
take
it a
a look.
point to go dig it up and I'll email it to you. Okay. Yeah.
Please
Yeah.
do. So before Miss Sylvia jumps back in, somebody put in the chat, marriage is the tax man's money maker. And I think you all can, they can agree with that. And then someone added, if fear is impregnated into all minds, they will obey whatever book. And they put dot 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 Bible.
Yes. Right. Well,
We
well,
cannot disagree with you,
yeah,
ma'am.
false evidence appearing real. Everybody knows that. Um, wh- there's only one way for anyone to experience fear, and that's through programming.
Yeah. Come on, sir. Yes, that's
Fear,
that's it. And that's what we have been programmed with.
yes,
Fear.
yeah. And what happens is all of the trauma that we can think of and know about, fear is a factor, fear is a variable. So fear is inbred and repeated from one generation to another. And we have all of this fear and all of this terror that is riding us as individuals because we haven't done the work to heal the wound, the deep wound, which is the wound of not knowing our divinity and not knowing our sovereignty.
Hmm.
Period. It's just that simple. But just
You
saying
know
it's just
what?
that simple is
You
not
know what? I listened to this young lady. In fact, well, I don't know if I found out about her through you, but her name is Erin Lyons. And a message that I was recently listening to her say to our ancestors to write a bloodline release letter. She said, like, whatever it is that you're feeling, whatever that has come up in your life and through your bloodline, she literally said write a letter, with all those feelings, lack, faith, poverty, mental illness, whatever it is. Write it down, put it in a letter, and say, to your ancestors, dear ancestors, I thank you for your incarnate and what you went through and your experiences, and I am now releasing this from the bloodline. And it's some other stuff. That's me thinking as best I could. And then she said, burn it, which is a transmutation of energy as well. Go ahead, sir.
there's a whole lot of trickery in the English language. The word release is not a word that we want to use. Release means to take a lease out again.
Mm.
Okay. The
Mm.
operative word is I let go. Okay.
Yes.
So anybody that you know that's using the word release, tell them please reconsider and think about the notion that you're actually saying I am taking a lease out. I'm releasing this. Okay, not I'm letting go of this, but I'm leasing
Mm.
this again. Okay, so that wants to make some sense to some listeners.
No,
You know,
that's big. I like that. I like that. So I let go because that's what we need to do. And go ahead.
this letter to our ancestors can go like this. We have a Hawaiian shaman who is no longer with us. His name was uh,
Julian.
Dr. Hugh Lin. Yes.
Mm.
Abuela, abuela. Look at all this confirmation. Go
Yeah.
ahead, sir.
So watch this. So what Dr. Hugh Lin brought us, and of course, you know, he studied under a shaman named Moana, and he learned everything that he learned from her. He actually went in a state of disbelief. He did not believe that what his teacher was presenting was fact, but he didn't have any way of denying the effects and the results that she was getting. So he became a devotee of her, and he took her teachings and brought them forward. So what Dr. Hewlin brought us in Ho'oponopono and what Dr. Emoto brings us in Messages from Water, I was guided to say, to create something called the Seven Statements. And I give these to anybody that will receive them. So if you want to clear up some uh, ancestral
Transmutation.
if you want to transmute uh, anything that has to do with your ancestors, you can say these seven statements. Uh,
Mm.
I apologize. Please forgive me. I love
Thank
you.
you.
I appreciate you.
Mm.
I respect you. I thank you now. So let me interject something important here. There are some people on this audience that have memory. And some people on this audience actually know that they are a reincarnation of one of their ancestors. Okay. So oftentimes a soul will discorporate. It means that they leave the physical body and go someplace else and inhabit some other region of what we would call space time. And then they come back and they're born again, but they don't generally jump back in as their uh, as the next generation. They generally skip a generation. So I have like my father's father reincarnated into my family, and I won't say any more than that. I know somebody in my family whose soul was my father's soul, and I also know someone in my family who is my mother's soul reincarnated, and then I also know someone in my family who is my mother's aunt's soul reincarnated. And those are only three individuals that I am very certain of who reincarnated from my ancestral lineage. But what many years ago, my when one of these souls was just a little girl, and I was at my parents' house, and I was standing out in the front yard on the sidewalk, and this child looks up at me and telepathically asked me, "Why didn't you come to my funeral?" And
Mm.
all I could do is just stand there. And I guess we could say I was embarrassed to some extent, but that's not the right word to use. All I could do is say, okay, I understand. But okay, so this child was young enough to know how to speak and communicate telepathically, right? And so that was the question that this soul asked me. Now, I have another interesting situation where I did not attend the funeral of my first wife's brother in law. And when my first wife's brother in law reincarnated as his grandson, I was at a church in Greensboro, and the, the father of this child was holding this child in his arms, and this child does the same thing, says to me, "Why didn't you come to my funeral?"
Oh
And
boy.
and all I could do is say, "Okay, well, I didn't." So I've had those are two very interesting instances that I've had where children, very young children, asked me a very pointed question because it was soul memory that was bothering them. Because if you love me, why didn't you come to my funeral, right? That kind of thing. But
Hmm.
I was protecting myself from what we would call some of the family demons, if I may use that word. Uh, a lot of the trauma that uh, and sorrow and fear that clans suffer as a collective, that trauma and fear is spread around in a circle. It orbits a room, and it infects people who are susceptible to be infected by that trauma. And myself being an empath, uh, I found myself attempting to protect myself from all of these psychic invasions from uh, discounted entities and uh, from family trauma. And so I've done a lot of avoiding uh, family gatherings for that very reason, you know. Anyway, uh,
So let me say this, and then we'll give it back over to Miss Sylvia. That's something else I just talked about on the call that I was on this morning, the Ho'oponopono prayer.
yes,
It was introduced to me like towards the end of last year. And I kind of I knew it then, I quoted it, and then I kind of stopped. And lately, as I have been really going deeper into my spiritual journey, which I'm always going deep, and forgiveness has come up, and the way you view the world, because that's what Ho'oponopono is saying, is how you're seeing the outside world. Because what you left out, guys, since he mentioned it, I gotta throw this in there. What he mentioned is Dr. Hugh Lin was a psychiatrist
yes,
at a psychiatric ward in a prison with some heavily sedated, had to be in bondage, strapped down, mentally ill patients. And his way of curing them was through the Ho'opono prayer. Now you've
yes,
added some other words, but I had come to know the Ho'oponopono is I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. And he looked at their records and he just started quoting that within himself. He never said that to them. He quoted it to himself. And eventually the patients were cured and some started being released, and eventually all of them were healed and released back into society with that prayer. But it's within yourself. Go ahead, sir.
okay. So um, the seven statements originally were: I apologize, please forgive me, I love you, I appreciate you, I respect you, I thank you. Now, there is another way of doing ancestral healing, which goes like this: we apologize, please forgive us. We love you, we appreciate you, we respect you, we thank you. Now, when you say those seven statements, you're actually um, sending out a message to other souls, okay? And they have the option to accept it or to receive it. That's their call. But if you, it's just a love offering. But I wanted to say something now, and I don't feel uh, as though it is improper to share this with you. When those seven statements landed in my psyche, I started practicing those seven statements on all of the water across all of the universe, across all time. So, so try to take that in. All living beings are made of water, okay? And so if you're talking to all of the water across all time,
Hmm.
all space time, and you're saying those seven statements, you do the math, okay? I'm talking to everybody that's listening now. You do the math, okay? I don't need to say anymore, you know. Anyway,
Yes.
Sister Sylvia,
Yeah. And you know what, and you know what Miss Sylvia did say to me, she was like, Tammy, if you're doing that prayer and working on you, you're touching thousands,
yes,
because we're all interconnected, because we're all one. Yes,
yes.
yes, and yes. Miss Sylvia, take off.
Okay. Wow. Well, the last person was Dr. Carl Jung, and what he basically does is say basically the same things that we've already talked about. He was a Swedish psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, and everybody is probably familiar with him. So you can see him on YouTube or get his books. So I'm not going to do all of his because we've already talked about it prior. But there's one he says there are two faces of intimacy: the one that nourishes and elevates your energy, and the one that silently drains your essence. And
Mm.
the other thing he says, it becomes an energetic leak, destroying your emotions. That's just the casual sex, your relationships, and even your prosperity. That was very interesting.
Yeah, that hold on. I think a lot of people got to pause on that one. So you're what we just heard you say, we want to make sure we clarify this. You're saying sex with the wrong person can affect one's prosperity?
I'm saying that Dr. Carl
You know what
Jung's
I'm saying?
that,
Dr. Carl Jung.
yeah,
And yeah,
it
but
becomes an energetic leak, destroying your emotions, your relationships, and even your prosperity.
now I do see where sex can affect emotions, because sometimes people that are caught up in sexual relationships don't tend to acknowledge red flags, or make changes that they probably need to change, make, because they've been intimately connected with the person. So I could see that. And Dr. Carl Jung does a lot of talks, especially talking about the power of women that are abstaining from sex. So he definitely has some good information out there. I know one video that I listened to him, and I was like, "Sir, why are you telling my business?" Because everything that he was saying, I could identify with, because I was in that space. So yeah, but okay. Any more. This is good. There's some good stuff here.
The last thing was a question. Have you ever felt like a relationship took more than just your time, as if something inside you was lost? That is not random.
Mm.
And that is the end.
Say that, repeat that question again, because I want people to later sit with that question. Repeat that question, please.
Have you ever felt like a relationship took more than just your time? Has as if something inside you was lost. That is not random.
Yeah. So in a world, and maybe Mr. Vandor definitely jump in on this. In a world where sex is so highly publicized, like it seems to be okay, um to have his, especially from the male perspective, and you can help me out. Males tend to use this expression body counts. They tend to want to collect as many sexual partners as possible. How do we address this and change the narrative? Oh, it's for you, sir. That question was for you.
Okay, thank you. Because what happens is, in some of the things that came to my awareness after agreeing to participate in this forum tonight was a number of thoughts. Our ancestors and other beings are in communication with us. We might as well say 24/7. So no individual exists in a vacuum. So whether an individual realizes that someone from their ancestral lineage or some other discarnate being is feeding on them through their personal experience, and I'm talking about their physical experience, I'm talking about their sexual experience. A lack of awareness doesn't mean that something is not happening. It simply means that there's a lack of awareness. So for an individual not to be aware of who is accompanying them in their experience that we call sex doesn't mean that they're not being accompanied by someone in this experience that we call the sexual act. So, we've already suggested that we're all intimately connected, but what isn't being, now we have a tremendous amount of data that is being fed into the collective about discarnate beings, okay? I'm not privy to all of this, but there are countless uh, videos, countless uh, cartoons that talk about these uh, disembodied spirits, these entities that we call demons and angels, et cetera, et cetera. So, we have a tremendous amount of data that's been fed into the collective uh, about on the subject of other entities having an influence upon those of us who have physical bodies. Um, but there is no separation. And whether you are having sex for one purpose or another, it is my suggestion and my suspicion that you're not alone in the act. In other words, they're not just two people in the act. There are more souls involved than just those two individuals. Now, where is the proof? The proof is in your awareness. If you are asleep in the matrix, all well and good. None of my business, none of my concern. When I say none of my concern, I might want to suggest that that's not absolutely correct, because I wouldn't be here tonight if it was none of my concern. So I'll say it's none of my business. However, consider finding a way to refine your awareness, to wake up and become energy sensitive to the point where you can actually discern whether there is another influence in your experience other than who and what you think you are. Okay. Whether that's an ancestor asking. Oh, I have a perfect example. Watch this. I'm living in my second marriage. Okay. In my first marriage, my first marriage was challenged in some interesting and curious ways. And my first wife knew that it was just a matter of time before our marriage would dissolve. And so I had met someone in Winston-Salem at the National Black Theater Festival, and I saw this individual across an ocean of people. And as soon as my eyes landed on this person, every chakra in my body lit up like a neon light sign. Okay. So
Mm.
the lady finally made her way across this ocean of people, and we met and we talked and we exchanged connections, et cetera, et cetera. So um, I was puzzled about this question of what's this attraction between us? So I went to visit this person in New York, and I sat with her. And one day I was sitting with her, and I had a past life recall that visited itself upon me. And I saw us. For those that don't know it, soul has no sex, has no age, it's timeless. And so, in this particular scenario, there were three young Watusi males out on a field, and we were playing. We had just finished our initiatory rites. We had our shields and spears, and I threw my spear across the field, and this person didn't have their shield up, so it went into their rib cage. It went into their left rib cage. I ran across the field, and the person was laying on their back, and they were dying. And they looked up to me as if to say, "How could you do this?" Well, there wasn't even time to have a conversation. This person died right then and there. Well, that soul incarnated uh, in this time as a female, and that was the soul that I had met in Winston Salem at the National Black Theater Festival. So we did not have sex during my visit because I wasn't interested. I wasn't there for sex. Okay, I was there to answer the question: what is this draw between us? And I slept in the bed with her one night, and we might have cuddled. I don't know, but no sex, zero. She woke up the next morning. We woke up the next morning. She told me about a dream that she had. There were these two orbs that were hovering above the bed as we were sleeping. One was a blue orb and one was an orange orb. And I immediately knew what was happening. Her deceased brother and my deceased brother had been trying to arrange a relationship between her and myself so that we could create some bodies for them to reincarnate and be close to someone that loved them. Because her deceased brother was very close to her, my deceased brother was very close to me. And so these two souls got together on the other side and started conspiring towards the ends of uh, influencing my behavior and her behavior towards the ends of coupling so that they can have parents that were in their life before they discorporated, if I'm making any sense. Am I making sense? I mean,
No,
if y'all
to me, you are, yes,
okay,
but hold on. I guess the confusion part for me is that something that your souls probably planned in the beginning. Well, let me ask you: did the kids ever come about? Did the children ever come about? Y'all
no,
never
no,
had the
no,
kids?
no. Wait a minute, wait a minute. Let me clear this up real fast. I went to New York City to answer the question, what is the attraction between myself and this woman?
Okay,
And two answers came to me during that visit. The first
okay,
one was, okay, we were Watusi males, and
right.
you know, your life ended because you didn't have your shield up,
The
and I
arrow.
threw my
Mm-hmm.
spear. So the other attraction was her deceased brother and my deceased brother, the soul of her
Mm-hmm.
deceased brother and the soul of my deceased brother were conspiring in the invisible worlds to imagineer a relationship between her and myself where we would couple, we would manufacture bodies for them to come back into this world and be close to someone that loved them. Okay.
Wow.
It's just that
Wow.
simple. So
And you know what? I gotta say this real quick before it slip my mind again, because Miss Sylvia know how I do. I have a thought and it go woo. Earlier I saw and I don't know if anybody else saw it, but I saw a white light flash, like float behind you. So I feel that there's an orb present. I saw it. I don't know if anybody else saw it. You smiling because you know they there. You know they there.
I'm gonna tell you a funny story real quick. Okay, so I can't tell you what year it was, but within the last 10 years, I'm guessing. A fellow who lives in Richmond, Virginia. And I'm actually going to send you all this story that he just shared with me. Okay. He shared it with us, me and my wife. Anyway, this fellow married us in his backyard. And he's a cosmic traveler like I am. And he said, there are so many souls in attendance at this marriage. There were only three human beings out there, he,
Hmm.
myself, and the woman that I was married. But he says, I can't even count them. Okay. Now, I will tell you that these souls do work on our behalf. And, um, and oftentimes there are sightings of these souls because that's just, I mean, okay, I'll leave it at that. Sometimes there are sightings. Yes.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
they're around. And somebody put in the chat, wow, this is deep. I'm on in this space now. So yeah, and you know what? I recall a while back one of my coworkers, he said he likes to do they like to reenact Confederate wars and stuff like that. So I think it's somewhere up here in Georgia, somewhere. And he said they go and they've experienced seeing a bunch of orbs in that area.
Yes.
So
Yes. Right. Yeah. I think you all are going to be amazed at the story that you all get to read soon. That'll be the first thing that I send you, because my wife and I just took the PDF and changed it so that it could be read to us on her iPhone. So
mhm.
uh, yeah, right. So anyway, it's a beautiful story. So where do we go from here?
Hey chat, do you guys have any questions for Mr. Van Dorn or Miss Sylvia? Look, I I whew, I
So
don't even
long.
think we have enough time to go where I want to go, because we definitely, sir, going to have you back, because like you have said so much. And the hard part is when you've been programmed in the matrix to operate a certain way, think a certain way, live a certain way. And then when stuff like this, truth of the life beyond, and people say it because the person who doesn't have an open mind right now would say this man is crazy and Tammy just is crazy for going along with him.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, I'm not going along with you. I know a lot of what you're talking. I've already been exposed and open to a lot of what you're talking about. I've even had my out of body experience. I shared it on this platform before. Whereas my body, my consciousness ejected from my body, and I was floating in the cosmos looking at my body laying on the bed, and I heard all these voices around me and didn't understand nothing. I couldn't understand the language, but
Mhm.
I heard them, but it was just like so beautiful and so peaceful. So
Yes.
returning was not what I wanted to do, but I know I had more work to do.
Yes.
So I, and that kind of started me opening up. And then, like I told you about the story about the little boy. So it's like when you hear these things, you're told, no, that's devil work, that's witchcraft. You told everything but the truth. But that's where the matrix comes into play, the blue pill or the red pill. So I am loving what you're saying. I'm understanding it all. And I just hope people really kind of start tapping in, because what is happening right now, I feel a whole awakening is in at toe. They're trying to wake up, the souls that are asleep, like you said, sleep in the matrix, because their power, their destiny is not tied to being asleep. And if as long as one stays asleep, they're gonna have to keep coming back until they finally wake up. That's what I'm thinking. You can comment, one of you guys can comment. Okay, but we do have a question for you. So, what happened with the experience after the orb? Did you and her marry?
Oh no. Um, after that was an answer to my question, in
Okay.
terms of the question being, what is my attraction to this particular person? And when I realized that these two discarnate souls, her deceased brother and my deceased brother, were attempting to imagineer a coupling between her and myself, I said then and there, without saying it to her, I didn't. This is not. I'm not signing up for this. I'm not signing the contract that says she had invited me to come and start my life over, with her in New York, and I declined the invitation because it wasn't for me.
Right.
And I did see her again in 1994. I was at the Brandywine uh, workshop in Philadelphia, and she came over to visit me, just like for an afternoon or evening visit. But my clarity was such that I was only interested in friendship, but not coupling. And I'm not so sure if I answered your question, but the answer was it
Yeah,
wasn't.
no, no. They
Yeah.
wanted to know. But let me ask you this. And based on what you kind of talked about, Abuela, about sex. In many traditions, sex is either sacred or sinful. Is there a way for us to say, okay, it's not what you think it is, as far as like the shame? Because you have people, going back to the premarital sex, which I know you say I'm the minister, but the premarital sex, you know is, correct me if I'm wrong, I personally don't feel God is judging one on a sexual sin, but correct me, or maybe I'm just saying that just to spark a conversation. Do you think God is really sitting on the throne saying, hey, I'm judging you based on all the premarital sex, all the fornication um associated with sex? What are your thoughts on that, either one of you?
So, Sylvia, do you want to take this one? Okay. Well, let me share with the audience. There are some souls in the audience that are liberated, like I am. And when I say liberated, what I mean by that is that my relationship to the notion God is not in alignment with what Judeo Christianity has to say about it. Okay. And so in private, one day in private, I'm going to speak to you all about my Richard Pryor commentary on the notion God, okay? But we're not going to do that tonight. Heck no. Uh, but in private we will. So check this out. Imagine this. Imagine that it is entirely possible that what we conveniently call consciousness, which is also the all that is all knowing, all present, and all powerful. Now, watch this, please. People who go along with the notion that what we conveniently call God is all powerful, all knowing, and all present will immediately turn around and say something contrary to that if you corner them right, okay? So I don't take delight in cornering anybody right or wrong, but my concept of what God is bigger than what Judeo Christianity says, okay? Or at least different, because bigger might suggest that I think that I know more. No, I just know differently. So I don't know more, and I don't have to be right about this. Um, so all of those beautiful stories that people are married to by way of this religion, this ideology, that ideology, they don't belong in my experience as meaningful. Okay. Does that mean that I don't believe in God? Well, those who are listening to me, you have to believe what you have to believe. But I am free and unencumbered from ideology, cosmology, concepts about what God is and what God isn't. I talk about it because people believe that it has to be talked about. But a deeply spiritual person never has to mention the word God to be intimately connected to that which some of us know God to be, okay? Which is, once again, the all that is. And that's a convenient phrase that is attempting to speak to something that is bigger than concepts about God, especially with this notion of right and wrong. There's only knowing and not knowing. And so if soul is eternal and immortal and has an eternity to figure out which way is up and which way is upside down or backwards or whatever, then what use do we have for concepts of right and wrong? No. Concepts of right and wrong belong to those of a religious mind. I am of a spiritual mind, so concepts of right and wrong are kind of like outdated in my psyche. I'm free and unencumbered from those concepts. So I live a beautiful liberation from ideologies that many people navigate with. If I'm making any sense, I hope I'm making sense. So,
You are.
God bless. And of course, when I say God bless, people say, well, what are you talking about? Because a lot of people are running a lot of confusion because they're married to concepts that have been given them, assigned to them from this person or that person or whatever. Um, it takes a lot of spiritual fortitude to get to the place that I'm speaking from. Okay. So I don't expect everybody to be in agreement with me, and I don't want everybody to be in agreement with me. Uh, Everybody owes themselves um, a personal relationship with the all that is. Okay. And you can configure that any way you want to or you need to. But true freedom is to live in a certain kind of integrity with your divinity, which keeps you in a place of serving humankind towards the great awakening. Okay. And and some people know what I'm talking about. The great awakening is happening whether we believe in it or not. So it's just a matter of time. And you know, even that is an illusion time, but it isn't fair to say that because everybody, every time you move your hand, you're dealing with time. Every time you have a thought, you're dealing with time. So to throw a concept out about time, which is somewhat ludicrous and absurd, which I just did, um, how can one help oneself? we're all experiencing time because we're all thinking. But imagine no thought. Imagine being with no thought, just being a witness, being an observer. Does that cause
Well,
you to
to
think?
to basically to everything that you're saying, a lot of it is ran the way it is to keep people distracted. Because if you keep people distracted, oh, my religion is better than your religion, this my race is better than your race, and this, that, and the other, when in the grand scheme of things, we are still all one. And we all operate in a vibrational universe, whereas we also are vibrational creatures. So when you kept talking about thoughts become things. So that's important in the knowing of energy, because it's important where you keep your attention and your focus at, because your energy and your thoughts create things. And there are also universal laws at play here that they didn't tell us about as well, because again, they don't want us to know the truth to make us free. They don't want us free, because the moment you know the truth, the more powerful you become, and the more you be like, I'm going to operate in every, as many times as you said, in my divinity, my sovereignty. I'm going to operate in who I am. And the more they can keep us distracted from that, the more people don't even think of the importance of spending time in meditation,
Yes.
prayer, communing with God, communicating with the one. And it could be God, source, energy, all that, but it's important for time to be spent with him. And that will help us on this journey. And that veil that you talked about, it's being lifted. It's being lifted, but people gotta they gotta grasp their mind, because a lot of it is, this is not how it's been taught to me, and I'm 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, so I can't receive it that way, because I don't believe that, because that's not what was taught. Unaware that they were taught based on the constructs and the thoughts of somebody else who wanted to control them.
Yes.
So
And
I do want to read this comment in the chat, and we'll bring this home. Somebody put, the root and the sacral chakra have implications on our spiritual well-being. Absolutely. Who you partner with does matter. Thanks for all the great info. So thank you guys. Thank you so much.
yeah. So
Powerful.
all of those things that Sister Sylvia read to us from those different perspectives, those different individuals, all of those are pointers that we want to take into serious consideration. I wish everybody on the call had access to that material, because those are deep insights that do help us to navigate in this experience that I call the dream of being in this incarnation, in this body, in this dimension on planet Earth at this time. And all of our ancestors are actually watching, whether we see them or not. Um, and like I said, because of the way I'm formatted, you know, I, it's impossible for me to be in denial about the truth that I was born with. So some of the things that I said are not in alignment with what everybody believes on this forum, but I would like for people to give me the benefit of the doubt and to consider the distinct possibility that I'm telling myself the truth. Therefore, I'm telling you the truth about my experience, not about life in general, but just about my experience. Um, the One of the things that I like to think of as a true uh, kindness and a way to walk in integrity is to honor people, their truth. It doesn't have to be my truth. So if a person says, I have a personal relationship with Jesus, or I have a personal relationship with God, or whatever, that's none of my business. Because my contention is, if you know self love, then you know that what you call God loves you, and that relationship is all you need to get you through life. And I think I don't need to say any more than that.
You know what? We're gonna stop right there, because that is a whole nother conversation in itself, because that we're taught the only way to God is through Jesus, which I personally I do believe in. I know Jesus walked this earth, and I know Jesus, but I feel Jesus came in his full divinity, knowing who he was when he came from God. And so therefore I just feel it was part of the concept to control man. Like, well, no, if you bow down and worship Jesus only, because even Jesus said, "Don't worship me, worship the Father who sent me." That's what that's what the scripture says. So
Yeah, here's what Jesus said: don't worship me, but worship the God that is within me, that is also within you. He never told the people to worship him.
Right.
He said, worship the God that is in me, that is also in you.
Yeah. And
and
so
he
so so
also
so
said, "These works that I do, you
yes.
will do, and greater."
And that statement, that very statement is what I was able to say, I got it. you know, yeah, that is a great sacred truth. The liberation that is possible comes from finding one's way to love.
Mm,
Mm.
There
mm.
is no liberation without finding one's way to love.
Yes, that's it. That's it. World, oh my God, I just love. Oh my God, the creator is so awesome. Like I said that this morning, love covers everything. If we can just get back to love, enough of the hate, the jealousy. As a matter of fact, I was listening to one of my spiritual laws of success book, and I can't remember which one, but we even in a universe that it was never about competition. There is no law of competition. We're not supposed to be competing with each other, but you get a lot of that, and social media is big on causing that. But you know what? We will go on into tomorrow if we start talking about that. But somebody put in the chat, "I am that I am. When you go within, you will find I am there." Yes, 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 and yes. So we're going to bring this in. Mr. Van Dorn, Mr. Van Dorn, you and Abuela, Miss AKA Miss Sylvia, look, Abuela AKA Miss Sylvia, y'all came through with some gems, some nuggets, some like I we're gleaning. I'm gleaning. This atmosphere was so perfect, and I just with much love and gratitude thank you both. And Mr. Van Dorn, you know you got to come back. You have got to come back. We're not done with you, sir. We're not done with you. And I do want you, first of all, let me do it this way. Abuela, any final words for the people tonight?
I think everything has been said. This has been a wonderful, wonderful message tonight, and I'm going to go and look at it as soon as we get off so I can get this information.
I
and
know
I,
I was sitting here thinking, like, whoo, I'm gonna have to circle back on this one myself. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much for permitting me to join you tonight. And thank you, audience. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. And sir, is there any way, any work that you're doing that maybe the people can connect with you on? You talked about your sacred geometry, in which I want us to do a deeper dive into that and that flower of life. I want us to dive deeper in the future. So we're gonna
Yes.
have you come back. So,
Well,
but any way
if you
that the people can get in contact with you or
yeah, well, if you go into cyberspace to YouTube, there are a number of interviews that have taken place over the last 5 years. And so the first significant one was a documentary that was done by Duke University. It was called Sacred Lines. So if you go into YouTube and just look up Sacred Lines, Lines, it was a very, very short video that was created by Duke University's they had a summer program, a documentary program with students that created this video. So that's just like under 5 minutes. And then since then, I've been interviewed by a number of people. Black Mountain College Museum and Arts Center interviewed me. We had the Academy of Sacred Geometry interviewed me. We had a sister named Enolia Foti, who is in Africa, She's from the States, but she lives in Africa. She has a program called, gosh, I apologize. It isn't coming to me right now.
That's
The
okay.
Infinite Way podcast. It's called the Infinite Way Podcast. Yeah, Sister Enolia. So if you go there, that's a good one. I really enjoyed that particular interview. So those are just a few. But once again, if you Google my name, you can find videos of me. I've lost count of how many times I've been interviewed, but I've enjoyed all of them. So each one are unique, different, and something different was imparted. So, but anyway, I do have two websites, vandorenhennett.com and then lightweavings.com and lightweavings.com. That's my first website. That has more to do with the visual art. And then I actually have another website called loveoperaHouseofthesoul.com. But uh, I stopped posting. I posted for like about 15 days or maybe 20 days and I stopped and I haven't been back and that's been over a year and a half. I was planning on posting every day because I actually write every day, and these spiritual insights that visit with me, I write them down and I share them, but I generally share them via email. But yes, people can reach me through those channels. Yes.
And I would say you owe it to yourself to get one of his art pieces. You owe it to yourself.
Oh, you can go to Etsy.com and go to give me a second. A gallery of secrets. Yes, a gallery of secrets on Etsy. Now I'm going to apologize if you find it difficult to find it, but if you go to a gallery of secrets on Etsy, in theory, you will be able to find my site. And I don't have a lot of merchandise listed there right now, but my wife and I are busy making a sincere effort to get more things loaded for the general public. But I will say that these images do have the potential of helping to alter one's consciousness because what they are reminders that have uh, very specific frequencies that help to unlock portals of awareness in our psyche, and that's something that some people on the in the audience will understand what I mean by unlocking portals of awareness in our psyche. But most of us are walking around in cages that we can't see, uh, and we have to free ourselves. There's no force outside of us that's going to free ourselves. And so when we find our way to self love, the doors and the windows, the windows open to the cage, the doors open to the cage, and we can walk out. Okay. Yeah.
Mm,
That's what love does. Yeah.
absolutely. And wow, because I've been seeing these pop-ups that I think the Lion Gate portal is opening. So that you mentioned a portal. I think that's on 8-8 or something like that. I've been seeing a pop-up about that. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
But
That is major. That is
that's
major.
major.
Yeah. I try.
Any suggestions during the Lion Gate portal? I mean, real
Yes.
quick.
Go into a place of reverence for life, where you're beaming love as far and as fast and as furiously and as for long as you can. The more love that you permit to flow out of you, the more that's going to come to you. Okay.
Mm,
There's a term that I have used in the past. It's called God's boomerang. So uh, whatever you send out is coming back to you. And so if you can send love out, the more love you send out, which in a lot of cases there has to be a lot of forgiveness too. So the more love you send out, the more love is going to come back to you. So I call that God's boomerang. So people who are, if I may use the term catching hell, they don't realize that they set that into motion in the past, right? So Malcolm X said it about the chickens have come home to roost. Uh, Anything that you see in your life that looks like hell, you created it. And I know people are going to say, what the, wait a minute, because a lot of people are not ready to own the role that they play in creation.
right.
But once again, God's boomerang works whether you believe in it or not. So what you send out, it comes back to you. So find your way to love and just beam love. And if you can be in that place during the Lions Gate, you might find some wonderful things happening in your life and in your psyche in particular.
Say less. I'm going to be expressing all kind of love. I've already been working on the forgiveness part with the whole pono pono. That's something that I have been actively quoting on a regular basis. To me, and just situations and things like that. So that is something that I'm working on. So, but good stuff. So, guys, do some research. I know. I won't even finish that statement. I'm going to bring it home. You got something else you wanted to say, sir?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I am so grateful. I am appreciative, and I just want to say to everyone just a little bit about Tammi B. I am a life coach and a transformational speaker who would love to be part of your event as either an MC or a speaker. You can obtain more information about me at www.thassawoman.com. So, with much love and much gratitude, I thank my panel, Mr. Van Dorn, Miss Sylvia. She's the queen of Wisdom Wednesday, and we sending good vibes to Miss P over there traveling. I just thank you all. And I thank my viewers. You guys were active in the chat. I love you guys. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. We had some new viewers today, so we hope that you found this information insightful. And I know it was deep and it was eye-opening, but digest it. It was for your good. And I invite you, if you're not a part of our community, subscribe, as we are here weekly at 7:30 p.m. Eastern with new content. Now, this is August, and since we jumped right into the message today, I didn't get to tell you guys that August is Happiness Happens Month. So you're going to need to find reasons to be happy, and that lifts your spirit, lift your vibration, and it just brings you joy. Oh, and I forgot, give this video a thumbs up, click the like button. These speakers were phenomenal, and we would love and appreciate your support, and share this message. I know there is someone else who could benefit from it. Next Wednesday, we will have some up and coming artists in the building. So be on the lookout for the information about that. I'm excited to bring them to you next Wednesday at 7:30. So now, in honor of Happiness Happens Month, I leave you with this: 5 simple rules for a happy life. Never give up, which equals never back down. Don't be too emotional, which equals have faith. Don't make things complicated, which equals keep it simple. Don't be a grown up, which equals stay as youthful as a kid. And don't take things too seriously. Laugh at problems. Stay amazing, stay blessed, and peace and love to you all. Good night.